Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this special meeting on the budget to order at approximately 3:03 p.m. Councilman Parker, would you introduce a member of the clergy, or can you give an invocation yourself?
Thank you, Brother President Pro Tem. Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, Lord God, we come again this day giving you thanks, for you certainly have been gracious and understanding and long-suffering with each and every one of us. Dear Lord, as we begin to discuss the business of this city, we ask, Lord God, that you would grant us wisdom, guidance, and direction, that all that is done and all that is decided will be pleasing in your sight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And thank God.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance of the flag of the United States.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk Doyle, please call the roll.
Carrington,
Present.
Goodman,
Here.
James, McGinnis, Nicholson,
Here.
Parker,
Here.
Rutherford. Mr. President, you have quorum.
Thank you, sir. I need a motion, a second, to excuse Council members McGinnis, Rutherford, and James for personal reasons from this afternoon's meeting.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by Nicholson, supported by Goodman, to excuse the Councilman McGinnis, Rutherford, and James for personal reasons. Clerk, roll call, please.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker.
Yes.
4 yeas, no nays.
Thank you. At this time, I need a motion and a second to approve this afternoon's agenda.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by Councilman Nicholson, supported by Councilman Parker, that we approve tonight's agenda. Roll call, please.
Goodman,
Yes.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington.
Yes.
4 yeas, no nays.
Yeah, thank you. We have a quorum for today's meeting. I'd just like to thank everyone that took the time out to come to this budget meeting. This is very important to the city as we look at the vision of the next calendar year. At this time, we will now have a presentation on the overall strategic vision of the proposed budget from Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Council President Pro Tem. So I am going to be as brief as possible so that we can get to the actual budget presentations, but I wanted to give an overview of what the next 3 weeks is going to be like. And I will switch seats. Okay, so we're going to talk about, I will talk about the hearing order, the process for presentations, some overview of the budget generally, highlights from last year, goals for the year that we're talking about, and then just how this budget is setting us up to move forward. So today we will start with DPW, Community Development, and HR. We are doing this as a rolling series, so we are not only doing those three. As time permits, we will do as many of the different divisions as is possible on each of the days, hoping to get through all of them by the 23rd. The process for the budget itself, the Executive Office delivered a budget to the City Council on May 1st. The budget, once again, as last year's budget, is proposed to be a departmental level budget, not a line item. We give you the line item detail so that you will know how we are proposing to spend the money, but the actual budget itself is a departmental level budget. These next, there's a typo in there. These next 3 weeks will focus not on the line item, but we'll actually focus on the mission and the proposed goals of the departments. But of course, staff is here to answer any specific questions that you may have. A couple of things by the numbers. Most of the time when we're talking about the budget, the item that we're talking about is the general fund. The budget, however, is made up of several funds. You have the general fund and special revenue funds. General fund money can be spent on any legal activity that the city does. Special revenue funds, however, can only be spent on the activities for which they were designated. An example of that is the sanitation fund. It can only be spent on sanitation type activities. In addition to special revenue funds, you have a subcategory of special revenue funds that are called enterprise funds. Enterprise funds, again, like all other special revenue funds, can only be used for the activity for which they were created. However, what makes them special is that enterprise funds, generally speaking, are meant to be funded primarily by fees for service. An example of that would be the building department. The building department is meant to be a self-sustaining fund. Right now it is, and we'll talk about that during our presentations. Some things by the numbers that I wanted to draw your attention to with the special revenue funds. The cemetery and the district court, I highlighted those revenues in red because those two funds are subsidized very heavily by the general fund. We also have the TIFA 2 and the TIFA 3 up there because historically they had also been highly subsidized by the general fund. But I'm happy to say that in this fiscal year, we have gotten out of the deficit funding of the TIFA 2 and the TIFA 3. If you had, for those of you in the audience and viewing, you may not have seen the budget itself, but in the budget this year, the general fund has a deficit, as you can see, of $2.4 million. Now that is not an alarming figure because we do have the fund balance to cover that deficit. But I put this slide up here to show you that that deficit is actually created because of the general fund subsidy of the cemeteries and the district court. So as we continue to grow potential revenues in those other areas, we will be reducing the amount that the general fund has to subsidize those items to the point where hopefully in the next 5 years or so, and I'm trying to be realistic when I say 5 years and not 2 to 3 years, but in the next 5 years, we may actually be able to see that go away, and that alone would actually pull our general fund out of deficit spending. Just a highlight that was also in the budget, but again, this is for the benefit of the general public. You can see that the actual expenditures and revenues are not far off. We have done a very good job. We've done a very good job over the course of the past couple of years of actually growing our tax base. Pontiac is one of the fastest growing tax bases in Oakland County. Go backwards a slide here. Unfortunately, this didn't come out as large as I would have liked it to, but what this chart is showing is that over 50% of the general fund budget is already spent before we begin. That is spent on public safety, so police, fire, and our drains. So we're actually not talking about very much money when we're actually talking about like the budget that you will be going through in the next couple of weeks here. Some highlights from last year, and this is just highlights across all the different departments, very high level. We began the process of digitizing our processes. So we are moving the city into the 21st century and beyond. We've increased compliance of our housing stock and rental code. We have incentivized over $150 million of new investment. Once those incentives run their entire course, that is going to equate to over $900,000 of new tax revenue every year to the city. And that's just property tax revenue. That's not including whatever income taxes from the workers who will be at those facilities. We've had a large increase of brand awareness, people just being aware of the city of Pontiac, the programs that we're offering, and being more interested in living and investing here. Part of that brand awareness was made possible by launching our quarterly newsletter and our constant contact road list. We've expanded the use of City Hall for workspace. When we first all came into office, probably about half of the building was actually used for people. We have drastically expanded that. We are in the final stages, and before July 1, we will have actually finished reclaiming all of the old HR space once again for another 11 staff members. More highlights from last year. With blight removal, we've taken down 100 dead trees. You can see the road projects that we've worked on, street lights. Last year, the grant department was very successful in bringing in over $30 million of funding. And in last year's budget, the grant line was the largest line item of revenue for the city. Plans for this year. So in this fiscal year, we would like to begin the engineering work on the MLK Bridge. The actual construction will not be complete until 2026, but the engineering work beginning this fiscal year. Golf and Bagley reconstruction, Giddings Road, adult recreation program. So we're very familiar with our senior programs. We're very familiar with our youth programs, but we actually want to get programming in the parks for adults, right? We want soccer leagues and kickball and other things going for adults. Demolition on the McCarroll School building so we can actually put shovels in the ground for the new rec center, and a full engineering review of, I just said the rec center. More things in this year's budget: 50th District Court upgrades, new trainings for all of our city employees. Again, with the reaching out to the public, getting all of our applications translated into the languages other than English that are most commonly spoken in our city. Job aids for residents. So a lot of times we'll have residents come in and they're just not familiar with processes. Instead of making it difficult where they have to search around and find someone and then maybe find someone to translate, having simple job aids that say, are you trying to get a fence permit? Boom, boom, boom. Here are the steps. Just very easy one-pagers for everyone. We're looking to bring in, so last year we had over $30 million, which was a great banger year, but we're hoping for $20 million in philanthropic funding this year, and we would like to have a fully staffed finance department before the end of this fiscal year. That is setting us up for future growth. We would like, as we've got some stuff going on at the courts, but we would like to complete facility plans for all of our buildings, complete the plans this year and get them into action in 2026 and beyond. We would like to see our Parks Master Plan we have the plan, but we would like to see it fully implemented in the coming years. We'd also like to start a Parks Endowment. So we have a dedicated millage for seniors, we have a dedicated millage for youth, but we don't have any dedicated funding stream for our parks. That all comes out of the general fund. We'd like to look to see if we can find some kind of permanent funding source for that as well. Continuous training for staff. We've already talked about the fact that MLK Bridge would be a completed project in 2026. We have been working on a transformational brownfield. That is a state level incentive, but if we're able to land that project, that is another $100+ million of new investment in the city. Again, we'd like to get that finance staff fully intact and streamline our budgeting process and reduce our court subsidy. So that's the overview. That is what you're going to be hearing about from the departments, the plans that they are putting in place to move us in that direction. And with that, Ken is going to load the next.
Okay, before you sit down, Deputy Mayor, thank you
Yes.
for your overview. At this time, do council have any questions for the Deputy Mayor? Mayor Graham, you have the floor.
Thank you, President Pro Tem. First of all, I want to thank the Deputy Mayor for his thorough overview of the budget and where we've been and where we're going. I also just want to really hone in on a couple of key takeaways. In terms of the budget itself, we walked into office with a projected annual deficit of almost $6 million, and we reduced that to the current fiscal year's projected deficit of $4 million, and now, as you see, to a projected deficit of a little less than $2.5 million. The deficits in the past couple of years did not come to fruition because we restrained spending to a much lower level than was actually projected. But we don't envision that being the case this coming fiscal year, because we don't envision having as many vacancies as we've really ramped up our recruiting and filling of vacancies. Obviously, we wanted to make sure that we were increasing salaries and wages for staff, and so that's gone into effect and will continue into next year. So this is a projected deficit that's much more under control, but that is more likely to be real as we enter this next year. We have reached out to the philanthropic community to see if they can help provide some funding to help us build that capacity over the next 2 years and help fill that projected deficit as we continue to grow city revenues. But I think it's important to talk about how the fiscal picture for the city has so much improved and stabilized. And it's really due to a few things. Number one, it's about the fact that we have been improving the quality of life and business climate here, and thereby growing the city's tax base. So our tax revenues have increased substantially, which was always part of our strategic vision when we took office, is that by improving city services, we can attract and retain more residents, attract more business investment, and that's been happening, which has helped stabilize the city's financial picture. But it's also as a result of us paying off the Phoenix Center debt that we were saddled with when we took office. We inherited more than $5 million of debt on the Phoenix Center that has now been completely paid and wiped out thanks to assistance from the state that we advocated for. And as the deputy mayor also showed, we're coming out of deficit with the TIFA funds as well. So all of that has really helped on that side. And as we look forward, we've spent a lot of time the past 2 years building capacity so that we can improve city services, so that we can do more tasks on a better timeline and faster basis. But we really want to make sure that we're continuing to hone that, which is why we're proposing new positions that will invest in operations here at the city, including a couple of accounting positions so that we can have a fully staffed finance department, including ARPA positions and some other positions, just so we can make sure that operationally we're firing on all cylinders. I think that City Council and the executive share the vision and the same vision of where we want to take the city. The common frustrations that we hear from residents isn't about that vision, it's about not getting there quickly enough. And that's why we want to make these investments in our operations so that we can more quickly realize the strategic vision the City Council and we share, and that more importantly, we together here in city government share with our residents.
Thank you, Mayor Grommel. Actually, before we go to the first department, Council, you have any questions for the mayor? Hearing none. The first department that will be given a presentation is Department of Public Works.
Yes. Yes.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Zach Hopla. I'm with DLZ, the engineering group. And so today I'll be going over our overview for the Department of Public Works and engineering budgets. So again, our Public Works mission statement is to provide the City of Pontiac with the highest quality public infrastructure possible, which includes transportation, sanitation, buildings, and stormwater. Here you can see the organizational chart for the DPW. This consists of primarily the engineering side of things to the right. As you can see, we are looking to fill numerous positions and really transition to an in-house engineering group. As much as I enjoy being here, I believe it's in the best interest for the city to continue moving to a portion where we have in-house staff here all the time, and you guys only reach out to me on occasional instances. Again, enjoy being here though. So as you can see, we've actually We've actually listed construction manager, landscape architects as potential positions. We pivoted away from previously slated engineers for those positions to really conform to the direction the city is moving in. We have numerous projects, whether they be facilities, road projects, things of that nature. So we feel a construction manager is more suited for those. Recently, we've just brought in R&J Consulting for a lot of those facility projects. So currently, we kind of have that construction manager position slated, outsourced landscape architect to help beautify things and so forth. Again, this is more of the DPW side. As you can see, positions are filled with very few vacancies. So we're really moving in the right direction there. So just a few major changes. So again, additional staff to include, we currently have a GIS vacancy, but it was after overview, we've decided to have a GIS administrator and a GIS technician to truly serve the needs for the entire city and all departments, as well as I mentioned the construction manager and landscape architect. Again, it is our intention to actually move the department into an actual suitable facility outside of City Hall. So again, we can expand, bring these staff in, have them in comfortable working spaces, have spaces for all of our vehicles, the salt trucks that we're looking to procure, street sweepers, everything having a place for salt, a salt dome, everything. These are all the things that the DPW is looking for. Again, this past year's fiscal year's goals, or this upcoming fiscal year's goals, sorry, again, is to really find that permanent DPW facility, bring that in-house engineering, and then really continue to build and improve our asset management system, which would be comprised of our storm sewer system and then anything inside of our road network. And then complete our road master plan and implement the strategy to increase our pacer ratings across the city, and then operationalize our findings from all of our facility condition assessments on all the city-owned buildings. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer. Thank you.
Council, the floor is open for any questions. I have a few. I don't know if you're the person to answer these.
Yeah.
When it comes to our capital improvements, and how are they budgeted?
Yes, sir. So as far as our capital improvement budgets, really there's a few different aspects for that. So I will flip to that page as I have the budget in front of me, and I can accurately describe those to you, if you don't mind. So again, I've got some building additions and improvements in there. So there's actually, we've got some, the cooling tower for the sheriff's station is slated to be almost $1.3 million that needs to be renovated. That's a huge chunk there. Again, that's being supplemented from the general fund there. And these are integral things that need to be done. There are numerous roofs on the fire stations that are in desperate need of replacements. So again, there has been budgeting slated for those. We do have some funds budgeted for road construction, but that is purely for overages. We do not anticipate spending those, but with the vast amount of work that the city has going on, as you can see with Gulf and Bagley, MLK Drive starting up here, Franklin Road finishing, there's always the potential that with construction, you could have extra costs. So we have built in a comfort zone and a net there just in case. So those are a few of the items in the capital improvement budget.
Okay. And my follow-up to that is, what are we doing about the capital improvement projects that should have been completed in the previous fiscal year?
As such as?
For example, any road projects that we haven't completed that should have been completed this year, fundings to upgrades in a few of our buildings, those type of things.
Yeah, so to my knowledge, most of our road constructions are still on schedule. I know Franklin is taking a bit longer than we would have liked, but per the contract schedule there, that was always slated to give them until the end of June for completion, and we will have things complete by then. So as far as road projects go, we are totally comfortable there. Again, a lot of the funding for the road projects, though, do come from our 202 major roads account, not from the capital improvement account. As for like senior centers, that's moving extremely well. We're almost finished with that. And as far as my knowledge, everything is really on schedule.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor, I seen your hand go up.
Yeah, no,
okay.
I was just gonna, yeah.
Okay. Councilman Parker.
Thank you, Brother President Pro Tem. My question is, as we talk about capital improvement and those which have been scheduled, I can think of at least two projects that should have been on the budget for the last 2 years. One is the HVAC system at District 50th Court District, the prisoner entrance at 50th Court District.
Yes.
And some of those things, are those scheduled to be done this year?
Yes, sir. And if you actually look through in the budget, I have included notes on most of the line items that have changed from the previous year. And in those notes, I have listed the exact dollar figures for exact projects, so you can refer back to those. So the HVAC for the courthouse is budgeted for this upcoming fiscal year, and we will start that.
Okay, thank you. One last question, if I may.
You can have a
follow-up question.
Yes.
Will that we also include Wi-Fi?
So we are in discussions with that. So it is my understanding that it should not cost too much. And we have the room and the budget available to accommodate Wi-Fi to be included into the courthouse.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Councilman Parker. Councilman Goodman, you have the floor.
So to follow on the same thought as the last two council people, as Councilman Parker has brought up, there have been multiple situations where council has budgeted money for specific projects.
Yes, sir.
That has not been utilized. Another one I can give an example of that was in District 7 was the money set aside specifically for the demolition of Purdue schools. We keep ending up in this position where we're having a surplus because we're not completing projects, and this is nothing towards you. But it's like the question of, like, if council's going to be budgeting money for things going forward, I like to see them completed. And if council has to go through the process of asking for some type of compliance manager, let us know. But I would, first of all, prefer that we not have to get there, and also hope to see that moving forward, we will actually see the things that we're budgeting carried out.
Deputy Mayor, you have the floor.
No, thank you, Councilman, and that is actually something that we have taken note of. That is part of the reason why Rob England is here, and he has already gone a long way to moving us forward on some of those projects that have been languishing. That is also why we are working so diligently to really try and get everything staffed up. Some of these projects, as important as they are, we just did not have the bandwidth to do those projects and to do day-to-day operations. And so, yes, that has been built in, one, with Rob England, but also, two, with asking for the additional position that is essentially, we didn't call it a compliance manager, but a project manager.
Yes, sir.
So thank you for answering that question. In a different vein, so I see it that the plan is obviously to move us into a temporary facility for, is it DPW and engineering, or?
Yes.
So have you guys like budgeted the cost that's going to be needed for utilities for this new facility as reflected in this budget?
Thank you, Councilman. As reflected in this budget, that increased cost is not there at this time. We are still working on the lease of the preferred facility, and once we get through that, we will definitely have that additional number there. The issue really is that the facility that we are in right now is insufficient. It is not large enough, and so we really do need to move into another facility. But that other facility that we are currently looking at is definitely a temporary, it is a long-term temporary facility. It is, the intention is to move there. We would have up to 5 years of being in that facility, but it should not take that long for us to actually identify a suitable location and build a new building if we start now.
Councilman, you having a follow-up question?
Well, so like to just be, bring it back to the thing that I was mentioning, I think I appreciate that. I just think it's just really important for us to, as soon as feasibly possible, having that amount that we are budgeting for utilities and the fact that we are changing facilities. I'm assuming that is a larger, much larger building than we currently are. So that is going to be a substantial cost. I mean, again, in the span of the city's budget, not gigantic, but it's a number that we are going to have to know with this change happening, and will likely be at least multi-year reoccurring cost for at least a couple years.
The mayor had it.
Well,
Mayor Grammel.
Well, actually, Councilman Goodman sort of spoke to the point I was going to make, which is it'll be an increase. It's, first of all, a really great question, Councilman Goodman. And all I was going to do is point out what Councilman Goodman has now pointed out, which is we're already paying some utilities for the leased DPW facility, but yes, we will see a substantial increase in those utility costs because we'll be moving from a smaller, inadequate facility to a much larger facility.
Thank you, Mayor Grammel. Councilman Nicholson.
During the presentation, you talked about the goal to affect the overall PACER rating of our local streets.
Yes, sir.
In past budget years, we've seen dollars set aside for local streets. In my
Yes.
district, we had Hazel Street that was
Yes.
directly funded by the city tax dollars.
Yes, sir.
I don't see local streets. Are we
Yes, sir.
not planning
So
to?
if you reference, so we've got your 202 account, which is our major roads, and then you have our 203, which is our local roads account. At this moment, we are moving into a direction with this city to truly analyze all of our assets. And that requires us to do more data collection, do more assessments of the assets that we own, and we are currently moving towards doing so. So that way we can improve our transportation asset management plan that was submitted to the TAMC. Once we accomplish that, which is coming in the next few months, we actually have a resolution that is coming to you guys in a couple of weeks here to continue doing that, and that will coupled with our storm sewer asset management, which is currently ongoing with a high water grant infrastructure program. Those two together will give us a very true picture of what our assets are in the city when it comes to roads and storm sewer. From there, we can truly make a multi-year budget with a plan in place for in the future, for a 3, 5, 10-year plan. So when we start having extra revenue come in or any type of thing like that, you can start moving projects differently based on what you can afford. But no longer will we just pick a random street here or there based off of requests. We will truly look at what aligns, and we will look at what our neighbors are doing as far as WRC goes, or consumers is doing, or DTE, so we can move in the direction of digging once instead of having multiple projects over a span of a few years.
Just a follow-up.
Yes.
I just, because this is our first experience with you during budgeting, I
Yes,
just
sir.
thank you for that.
Yes.
With my colleagues, I just want to point out, because of that process, typically every year you're going to hear each one of us sort of make those
Yeah.
amendments.
Yeah.
So I just want to see if it's possible, just if there's a summary to ask administration, because of that would be coming after budgeting, probably after our amendments, just so everybody is aware that this is the goal, this is what's coming, so we don't end up having ad hoc amendments coming from each person. Thank you.
Council, any other questions from the DPW? Councilman Goodman for the second time.
So obviously in the city, we have an issue when it comes to the quality of our local roads.
Yes.
And I know we've mentioned the PACER rating and needing to bring things up. So like what, just so from my understanding, like what is the current projection for like Act 51 funds for our road infrastructure, like the projected use or what we're getting or anything like that?
So again, that's all based on your state tax on gas and weight, right? So right now, our budget projections for revenues is based on what our current is, just because we're really not given an accurate depiction of what that could potentially be for the upcoming fiscal year. So really, we're working off of what we've got and understand that a lot of, especially our major road construction that was applied for and put on the tip years ago, are all coming to fruition at the same time. We have some major projects coming up with MLK Drive, Auburn, Pike, all of those things, all culminating at the same time. And so it can get extremely difficult, and you spread yourself extremely thin, and you start to have these log jams like we're kind of occurring right now with having Gulf and Bagley occurring, Square Lakes going on, even though that's not a city project. But because of that, that's why we're kind of slowing down the pace a little bit on the local roads. However, it is a major emphasis for the engineering and DPW department to truly come up with a multi-year plan that we can involve council with. We can have these conversations. We can have these discussions together. So there are no blind sides. There are no, why did you choose this road? We can truly sit down together and make these determinations.
Any follow-up questions for council? I look forward to that process as well. I think it's important too that we know exactly how we move in with other entities that are actually doing work in the city of Pontiac as well.
Yes, sir.
I do have one.
Yeah, you have a follow-up. Another follow-up, Councilman Goodman, you have the floor.
Yeah, and this is my final one. I know that in like the past, well, now it feels like a couple of years that we've been doing, well, the WRC in conjunction with the city have been doing a lot of work
Yes.
on our water infrastructure in the city.
Yes.
Is there anything that is budgeted or that we are working on to like build upon those infrastructure improvements or maintain them long term to keep our infrastructure safe for our residents?
So as far as our water and sewer goes, obviously that we do not maintain, we don't operate, we don't fund any of that. That is all with WRC. However, there's definitely always communication between both parties. And then on the stormwater side of things, that is what we are doing right now, right? So we've got pipeline management going through the city. They are televising, they are cleaning the pipes, they are identifying major repairs that need to be done with ratings on things. So then we can make a determination of, can we line the pipe or do we need to actually dig and fully replace, which can then, if we need to do those dig and replacements, that could seriously drive some of our local road projects. So we dig once and we really make sure we are spending our money effectively.
Thank you.
Any follow-up? Mayor Graham.
Yeah, just for those in the audience or those watching from home, I do just want to clarify because it can get very confusing. When Zach references that the sewer is the responsibility of the Water Resources Commission, he means the sanitary sewer. So the Water Resources Commission is solely responsible for water and sanitary sewer lines. The city is responsible for stormwater sewer lines. And I bring that up just because I'm sure there are going to be elements to the budget where we're talking about investments in stormwater sewer. And people may say, well, wait a second, I thought Zach said WRC was responsible for sewer. So just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you for that clarification, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Graham. Any other questions for the DBW department? Again, thank you for your presentation. At this time, the second department to bring forth for presentations, Community Development Department.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel Locker.
Please turn the mic on. It's to the right at the bottom.
Sorry, and the clickers, he took it with him?
I stole your clicker.
That's what I was looking for. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rachel Lochran. I am the Community Development Director for the City of Pontiac. Community Development Director oversees the Building Division, Code Enforcement Division, Economic Development Division, and the Planning and Zoning Division. The mission statement for the Community Development Division is to facilitate ongoing investment in the community and safeguard the health, safety, and welfare of those who work, live, and play in the city of Pontiac. Here is the organizational chart, but because there's so much to it, I have created a personnel summary for each division, which will make it a lot easier for everybody to see what's going on in each division. We'll start with the building division. We have only one open position in the current positions, and that is the building inspector position. We have no proposed new positions in the building division, but we do have a title change that we propose. We propose converting the building inspector position to the deputy building official position. And the reason for that is when the building official is out sick or out on an inspection or on vacation, we don't have a backup. So if we had a deputy building official position, this would be at no additional cost to the city, but it would allow us to give somebody the authority to stand in when the building official is not available. Moving on to the code enforcement division, we have 3 vacant part-time inspector positions. Other than that, the code enforcement division staffing is full. We have 1 proposed new position. That is a team leader position. Because code enforcement is so busy, even with the addition of the assistant code enforcement manager, they find themselves still buried and feel that if they could have another employee to assign work to, they'd be able to better manage the large number of issues they deal with on a daily basis. We also have 1 position change requested in the code enforcement division. We have an inspector is her title, but she's not actually functioning as an inspector. She is our court liaison, and she has been doing a phenomenal job handling the hundreds of court cases that we see on a weekly basis. So we propose to change her title from code enforcement inspector to code liaison and increase her salary by 1 band. The economic development division also has 1 vacant position, that is the assistant manager position. We have 2 proposed new positions. Those positions, though, are not being requested to be funded out of the general fund. They are ARPA-funded positions, and we'll use that to help build a workforce development division within the economic development division. So those positions are workforce development manager and neighborhood revitalization strategist. We have 1 position change that we are requesting. That is the current housing development specialist that resides in the grants division. We would like to move that person to the economic development division and change their title to housing coordinator. This is at no additional cost to the city. It was an ARPA funded, or is currently an ARPA funded position and will remain an ARPA funded position. It's just moving the person out of grants into economic development and changing their title. Planning and zoning division is currently full staff-wise, and we have no proposed positions and no proposed changes to any positions. The community development fiscal year 25 goals are improved service delivery, and we'll do that by having a highly qualified staff, enhancing website applications, digital plan review, and finish redevelopment ready community certification, the RRC program. We will build the workforce development program. We would like to increase business retention and attraction activities, and we will continue our focus on blight removal. And that's all I have for you. Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, will any of your managers be presenting today as well?
No, but they are all here and happy to answer any questions that you
All
might
right,
have.
thank you. Councilman Parker.
Thank you, sir. My question is, I think at 1 slide back, you mentioned that some of those positions you're expecting to fund with ARPA dollars. How will they be funded after ARPA dollars are gone?
That is a decision that will need to be made before that time comes. I believe that workforce development is critical to the city of Pontiac, and we will have to take a look at the budget at that time. I imagine that because this is housed in the Economic Development Division, there will be a lot of cross-functioning between economic development and workforce development. By doing that, we'll be able to increase our tax base here at the city, and by that happening, it may allow the city to have enough new tax income to fund those positions.
That's my question.
That's your question? Any other council questions? I have a few questions. How is your department working with small businesses?
Economic Development is working through the ARPA program to create the Small Business Assistance Program that has been kicked off. I can have Deborah
Yes,
Younger
please.
speak a little bit more about the program.
If she can.
Thank you, Rachel. Council. Yes, we, in addition to creating a small business assistance program, the first component is technical assistance, where we'll be providing direct assistance to approximately 125 businesses. The requested assistance, that assistance ranges from HR to financial management and planning to architect and design. Some of them would like to move into new spaces. So it's a host of services that will be provided. Currently, there are 16 providers that will be providing this service. We're out with a current RFP for a few more because some of the services requested we didn't get a response for. But in total, we anticipate between 16 and 20 providers working with 125 businesses on an average of 10 to 20 hours per business in technical assistance. Following that, we will be issuing a loan and grant program. The loan program is available to Pontiac businesses that are non-resident owners. There's approximately $750,000, not approximately, there is $750,000 available for funding for that. The maximum grant amount is $50,000, and we will be forming a loan and grant committee to review those loans and grants. Also, we'll have up to $50,000 in grant assistance to Pontiac-based businesses that are also owned by residents of Pontiac. Again, the same terms, up to $50,000, but it will be a grant, so there is no repayment. In addition to that, we continue to work with MEDC, the Pontiac Entrepreneurship Program, the Downtown Business Owners, Main Street, to assist and work with small businesses. We're working to build a small business ecosystem where businesses know where to come for assistance, where there begins to become a one-stop shop for assistance. That won't necessarily be the city, but the city will work to coordinate those resources so that we build a complete ecosystem around small business development. So some of the work that we're starting now with the technical assistance and providing loans and grants will help us build out that ecosystem.
Okay, thank you for that. And actually, my follow-up question was, how are you working to bring new businesses into the city of Pontiac and to
Yes.
help those businesses thrive?
Yes, and again, we work not just with MEC, we also work MEDC, we also work with the county, and again, we will be starting a more robust business retention attraction program. Now that I'm starting to get some staff, we'll be able to do that. One of our goals upcoming for this year is launching a business retention and attraction program.
Thank you. Councilman, any other questions? Councilman Goodman.
This one's directed towards code enforcement. So first of all, good afternoon, Jack.
Good afternoon.
So I really just want to ask, when it comes to like the budget process so far with code enforcement, your department has been extremely monumental in really changing the landscape when it comes to housing in the city of Pontiac, and I am just. I want to ask, is there anything in particular that you think that is in the budget that's extremely important, things that you think are important moving forward as we try to continue to address the problems that you are addressing?
Yeah, I think when we started, we were reacting to everything, all the phone calls, all the stuff coming in, the stuff that hadn't been resolved in the past. We inherited over 22,000 open code enforcements. We've got that down to a very respectable number now. The thing that Clarence is here tonight, and he'll tell you that most days we get here by 8 and we're here till 6 or 7 at night because we're still entrenched with the daily work that's happening with the inspectors when they're doing their inspections and they're doing their code enforcement. That's why we feel strongly that we need a team lead person, someone that will be their primary focus is overseeing the enforcements that are done during the day, the rental inspections that are done during the day. They'll do the training if we have new people come in. And it'll allow Clarence to continue the escrow program, which takes up probably 40 to 50% of his day. He oversees all the downtown parking and the back room that's involved in that. And it'll give me an opportunity to start doing more strategic planning for how we're going to move things forward, particularly with our Good to Great program that we've been launching since we started. So,
Thank you.
Councilman Parker.
Thank you, sir. I just have one question. I certainly want to commend your staff for the excellent job, actually phenomenal job they've been doing to try to play catch up. But I do have two questions. One is, as you talked about having switched one of your employees who was dealing with blight court over to district court, is that enough persons to be able to handle that effectively and efficiently? That's my first question.
yeah, so in addition, we're talking about Maribel. She'll be really excited that her name was mentioned at the meeting. We're talking about Maribel, but in addition to Maribel, there's a second person that works part-time assisting Maribel with making sure tickets get over to court in a timely manner, doing the follow-up with all the inspectors to make sure that everything is prepared for us to litigate in court. So we feel completely safe, with the numbers that we have there. I will be on vacation. By the way, my stepmother is here tonight. It's the first time she's ever been to a council meeting. If you can just raise your hand real quick. In any city that she's lived in. And once we're done here tonight, then my vacation started this morning, but we're going on vacation. So, I feel very confident. Next Monday, I won't be present in court. I've been attending every court session, but I'm 100% confident between Maribel and Brianna and then Clarence on the sidelines that we'll continue to do well, and we'll do well next Monday. But I think that part of it is we've got a great handle on it. As I mentioned before, we're moving to an electronic process with court, and Maribel's, that's one of her primary responsibilities right now is to get that contract with Lean and to get us moving forward to that process. So,
And my second question was in relationship to some of the co-ops, and I know we were previously required to inspect co-ops, but I know that's about to increase with having to inspect co-ops. Will you need another person to be able to manage that piece effectively?
no, that's the other function that Brianna's doing in the office is she's assisting Clarence with all the rent rolls, and she's way up to speed on that. She's working on those every single day. We'll probably, of course, we'll have to schedule them in a way that it makes sense. But the additional part-time folks that you guys were graciously that approved last year, those folks kind of fill in the gaps. So if we have busy, heavy days, those folks are also trained on doing rental inspections, and so it's very common for a full-time person in a district to take a part-timer with them to help facilitate, when we're going in and doing 50 to 60 rental, apartment inspections a day, that type of thing.
Thank you.
Councilman Nicholson.
While you're here, legal resources. I know it's not slated in this line item, but to be prepared for that. I know we've been very satisfied with the firm, the Kelly firm. Do you feel that they need extra support? Are they able to provide that extra support with the current budget?
I guess that would be more of a question for them, but what I will tell you is that I've had no issues. Jake is my person from the Kelly firm. I've spoke so highly of him. I'm very fond of him. We have a great system. Him and Maribel developed a shared drive that they communicate even during court. As we're litigating courses, Maribel's typing the results into the documents. You guys are now getting those weekly results. I'd like it to be designed a little bit differently on there, and I'm going to work on that so that it's more clear what you're looking at. But that's ongoing, so it's almost like a live document that we can look at. And Maribel is doing a lot of the prep work, so if Jake has to present a show cause or a default, she's already pre-filled out forms that her and Jake designed and created. So beyond that, the scope of that, I think that would be a better question to probably have with Rachel and with the Kelly firm, but Jake has been able to keep up with us and actually take us ahead. I'm surprised that we litigate. Our number is between 22 and 27 cases every Monday, and we've been able to keep up with that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Oakland. I have a few questions as well for your department. I know you guys actually go out and you abate a lot of different properties. And I'm kind of wondering about what's the total process of, or how difficult it is to get into court, get those properties abated, and then get them on the tax rolls to the tax department to make sure that we get some follow-up concerning the reimbursements for what the taxpayers are doing to keep the city clean.
Yeah, so our initial process is we go out and we do an enforcement on the property. So the property's either tagged or we serve notice through a letter to the property owner. If they don't come into compliance, regardless of the scope of what the violation is, then we end up moving over to district court. Once we get into district court, if we can track them down, or if they appear, or if they don't appear, that's how we move forward with abatement. So typically what's been happening, like with Glenwood Plaza, that's probably one of the best examples, is there was a holding company that had actually purchased Glenwood Plaza right during the process of us prosecuting the previous owner. So we had to suspend the tickets against the previous owner because it now had transferred properties. So those are the kind of the hiccups that happen in terms of getting to the home plate in terms of abatements. But the process itself has been, I think, seamless. I mean, we get in front of the judge. If they don't appear, or if they don't come into compliance once they have appeared, the judge and the prosecutor typically will negotiate with the defendant a particular amount of time to get that resolved. If they don't within that time, it's built right into the stipulated agreement that goes on record that if you're not completed by this date, then we're going to move for an abatement. And an abatement that will be the responsibility and the cost of the property owner, and not a burden on the taxpayers of Pontiac.
Okay. As someone like to see the process done quickly, I bug you a lot on this.
No, I welcome your calls all the time. So.
But on the same, is enough money in your projected budget to make sure we can do these abatements once the courts?
Yeah, I believe so. I believe so. I think we kind of calculated, Rachel and I worked on this, we kind of calculated the amount of abatements that we thought we'd accomplish in 1 year. Of course, we have to have the money to pay the contractor to do the abatement. Mm-hmm. When we brought that contractor in front of you, one of the things I was most pleased about that contractor is I thought their prices were very respectful towards the city. They weren't trying to gouge, and they've been that way since they've been submitting invoices. So as soon as those we pay the contractor, then we immediately convert that into a miscellaneous receivable, and we bill the property owner. So, and then if they don't pay it by the time our treasurer gets ready to move those things over to taxes, then that abatement would be included on that. It would get moved to their taxes.
All right, thank you, sir. Council, any more questions for Manager McIntyre or this particular department? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And Ms. Rachel, I'm sorry. Yep, no problem. It's planning? Okay.
My question is probably direct. I think it's directed to planning and public safety. One of the things that we obviously, with all the work that's being done with WRC and the other departments, as we plan our road projects, is there a way? I'm sure there has to be a way that we can plan them a little bit more efficiently, so that the city is not seeing what's bottlenecked up. Because, and I know our you're going to answer this one, I guess. I know sometimes we just seem like we are constricted, but which way we can go and such, because it seems like WRC is doing stuff. Other people, like even today, somebody else might be fixing their driveway or whatever, that stops it. WRC is doing stuff, DTE is doing stuff, Consumers is doing stuff, MDOT's doing stuff, and and so is there a way we can kind of plan these more efficiently and effectively that it doesn't interrupt or cause bottlenecks at certainly specifically times of the day, like early morning between 3 and 5, that people can get around better in the city? And I think that's a planning question, but it may not be. Yes.
Actually, you want the floor? Are you?
I surrender.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council. Yes, Councilman, that is actually a question for the DPW engineering group, but that is what Zach was talking to when he gave the dig once mantra. And the idea is that if we have a better grasp of all of the things that we need to do, we can do a much, much better job of coordinating with the Water Resource Commission, with the with Michigan MDOT, so that we are not building an east-west road, which means that that road is not available at the same time that Water Resource Commission is replacing a water pipe on an adjacent east-west road, which means that that road is also not available. So now you have to go up 2 roads, and now we have 2 roads all being diverted to the same road that was not designed for that level of traffic. And so that is what Zach was talking about.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilman Goodman.
I feel like this might be a planning question or an economic development question. So I guess I'm asking in a very loose way, like how does your budget for the year reflect hopefully planning or economic development's work to develop some of the vacant properties that are especially in need of being developed, including but not limited to, like in my district, the Racer property parking lot, or really any other potential development for that matter? How does your budget reflect trying to get those things in front of people who might potentially want it to develop on it? Like how are we working towards that?
We are rolling over the funds from the housing study and the master plan study. So once we get through all of that planning, we will have a guideline to follow for these 2 divisions in this department. But we have updated our zoning map. We are almost fully staffed in both divisions. And basically, we all just need to work together. The Racer properties can be marketed by economic development. We will create a list of vacant properties with maps and as much information as we can provide and put that on the economic development website. But that's the best way to really market our properties. I've also created memberships for all of our economic development staff with ICSC. ICSC is the International Shopping Center Association. So they do a lot of events. And what's great about these events is brokers attend, shopping center owners attend, shopping center developers attend, and it's a really great way to get yourself known, let these people know how they can contact you, and share available properties in the city with them.
Thank you.
Any other question, council, for this department? Hearing no other questions, thank you for your presentation this afternoon.
Thank you.
The next department is the Human Resource Department presentation. And please give me your name because I'm bad at names, and I apologize for that.
That's okay. First name is Melinda. Last name is Durakovic. So good afternoon. My name is Melinda Durakovic, and I am the HR director. So I wanted to share with you our mission statement of human resources. It is to provide the city of Pontiac with an employment structure that facilitates attraction and retention of the best talent possible. Here is our org chart. I know it's huge, right? So you have myself, the director, and then we have Ashley Boyd, who is our HR generalist, and Carla Terry, who is our newest addition to the team. She is our HR coordinator. So I want to go over some achievements. Did I miss it? Nope. I want to go over some HR achievements from 23-24. So they have been busy since October of 2024 with some change management in HR. As you know, that we lost our HR director. So there's a lot going on during that time towards the end of the year. And then I was hired in the beginning of December of 2024. So during that time to the present, HR has completed and implemented the wage and compensation study for leadership, for salaried and hourly employees. We have consolidated the retirement plans, which is MERS, Mission Square, and Empower, all to nationwide. We had a USI broker transition from Meadowbrook, and with that transition, we were able to save $24,000 annually in administrative cost. We will be initiating a new benefits administrative system, Navigator, which will fully integrate with our current system, ADP, to automate this process. We expect that the full implementation will occur by the end of 2024 of this month. This is pretty huge because in the past we have been using paper, and with this being automated, it will make the process easier and streamlined. So here are some of our 24-25 goals. Huge to improve employee engagement, have new activities for the employees to be a part of, such as pumpkin carving or having an ugly sweater contest for the holidays, having twin day, just something to get the employees engaged and maybe excited to come to work. Also more staff appreciation events as well. We have a couple ideas that we have talked about in my department, and just hopefully having some appreciation for our employees. We wanted to have some mandatory trainings, such as customer service, how to treat each other, as well as our customers, email etiquette, leadership training, union avoidance, crucial conversations, handling difficult employees, just to name a few. Rollout of updated retirement packages, and centralized management of temporary labor. That's all.
Thank you for your presentation. Council, have any questions? Thank you for your presentation.
Oh, you're welcome.
No, don't lead them, Martin. You got to stand for a few minutes long. We got
sure.
some questions for you.
That's
Council,
all right.
have any questions? Councilman Nicholson.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good to see you.
You too. Thanks. Wanted to have you give us just a brief overview of your recruitment strategy coming forward, as we've had some good success, but also
Yes.
we've got some ways to go, and
We
how
do.
we're going to manage that with the current staff or outside resources.
Sure. So we do have outside resource, which is GovHR, that we've been working with. His name is James Vetrano. So we have been working closely with him with these high-profile positions. So we did just hire a director of DPW. We are currently looking for a finance director. We do have a meeting with James on Monday to go over those positions, especially with the finance director. He is sending me now resumes to take a look at. So that is helpful with us because his scope is so much bigger. But we still have it open on our website. We're still recruiting from our website as well. But James has been very instrumental in getting those applicants to us.
Just as a follow-up, do you feel that the current line item will suffice a strong advancement in the recruitment strategy?
I'm hoping. I did ask for a little bit bump in that for that recruitment strategy because that is top and foremost is getting these high-level positions filled.
Any other questions? Councilman Parker.
Just one question. And
Yes,
again,
sir.
thank you for your diligence in getting our human resources processed and structured appropriately. And so I would ask, based on what has to be done in-house and the recruitment strategy to hire the vacant positions that exist now, do you feel you have enough staff to be able to do that?
Yes and no. I think that the staff that I have now know what they know. I'm trying to elevate them to where I need them to be. Could I use more staff? maybe one. However, I say that now because everything is not automated. So it does take more manual labor to do certain things. So that's why I say yes and no. Now, probably not, because everything is done manually. Come to us manually. We got to put it in manually. But I think, and I'm hoping, that once we get everything streamlined and automated, then we will not need that person because everything will be able to put online, and then here we are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Councilman Nicholson, you had the floor. Councilman Goodman, you had the floor.
How many vacant positions do we currently have that you are currently trying to work on in terms of HR?
Do you, are you looking for the front staff, or just as a whole, including our high-level positions?
Let's ignore the high-level positions.
Okay. Don't quote me, but I think it's between maybe 35 and 39 positions.
That need to be filled, or that you were total looking total overall?
Overall. So
how many are vacant?
maybe about 30, 25 to 30.
Between 5 and 30 that are vacant?
25.
25 and 30 that are vacant.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the question I have is what are we doing as a city to try to get these jobs more in front of residents? Have we attempted to do any sort of job fairs or community engagement, specifically when it comes to city jobs or anything in that vein?
I would like to have a job fair here at City Hall, just to get those positions. I know a lot of them are entry level, but it has been a struggle getting those positions filled, because we do post them, we do phone screens, but sometimes when we set up the interviews, they don't come, right? So I know, it's well, it should be easy to fill a janitor or a maintenance person. It's not that easy, because we will talk to them, but they don't show up. So that is one of the barriers that we do encounter. But I think maybe having a job fair and having the manager there, and where they can interview them and maybe hire them right there on the spot. Then we can start the process with the background screen and so forth. So I think that maybe not being so internet dependent, and then maybe having something here at City Hall.
Is that, sorry to interrupt, is that something that you would have to, that would go into your budget in terms of having to host something, or would that go into a different department's budget, like an event like communications? Because I mean, in general, in terms of trying to do that outreach, I'll hand it to either one of you if one of you has an answer.
You want to yield the floor to
Deputy Mayor? Yeah.
Yes, Deputy Mayor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Council. In general, that specific endeavor is not a relatively expensive thing. There is money in either the communications budget or the HR budget to be able to notify the public that we are having an event at City Hall.
Follow-up.
You want a follow-up question, Councilman?
Well, and not just that specific event, but I mean in terms of needing to fill job positions in the city, or when it comes to HR things, being able to do what is kind of there's a communication word for that's blanking me, but it's in a way advertising community outreach, specifically around trying to fulfill positions, hopefully with community members. So that's why I was asking if any ventures that take us outside of City Hall in a more dedicated fashion to get people to find these people may be a cost that I was just trying to figure out where it would be placed. But it's not the most important question. And then I do have a follow-up when it comes to retention, which is how is HR, I know this is less of a budget question, but it may be, how is HR going about, as well as the administration, how do I phrase this? In terms of I hate saying doing surveys with the employees, but how are we like actually trying to gather the data in terms of, you know, how our employees feel about working in the city, whether it be both work culture, whether it be benefits and pay, so on and so forth. Like how is HR tracking this data and information for, you know, our best purposes?
Sure. So we have not established something on how to measure our retention with our staff. If that's something I have to talk with our HR consultant with to try to develop something, maybe like a survey monkey to send out to our employees about, you know, wage, benefits, you know, what keeps you coming back every day, what stops you from turning in your resignation. But it's something that we can work on to send to our employees to see what makes them choose Pontiac a place to work. And that's something that we can measure and, you know, get their results and see what we can do. It could be low-hanging fruit that we can take care of immediately, or it could be something else that they may take some time to implement to get, you know, to match what they're saying in the survey.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Councilman Goodman. Councilman Parker, you have a follow-up for the second time.
Follow-up question. In regards to our management staff, I mean, the staff,
Yes.
overall staff. And I know we passed the resilience ordinance last year. What are we doing to ensure the mental health of our employees as we continue to challenge them to pursue excellence?
That's a very good question that I do not have an immediate answer to. That's something that I can go back with my team, maybe with the deputy mayor and mayor, and try to figure out something we can do with regards to mental health. I knew that we do have an EAP program. If somebody does feel like they need to reach out to talk to someone, we do have those resources available to everyone if they feel that they need help outside of maybe coming to HR to talk about what's going on.
Thank you.
Any follow-up questions, Council? Again, Ms. Melinda Derchovich, thank you for your presentation. Again, forgive me if I butchered your last name.
That's all right. It's okay. Thank you, everyone.
The next department is Grants and Philanthropy Department.
Evening, Council, or afternoon, Council. You've got me again. The acting director for the Grants and Philanthropy Department had an emergency in her family and is not here today, so we can either go on with Grants and Philanthropy or we can move to the next item. Your choice.
Let's move to the next item since she's not here to present. The Parks and Recreation department head just walked out the door. So let's go to the mayor's office. And
Executive Department. This is me. All right. So again, the same format. Our mission statement is to provide oversight of daily activities and departments such that the city of Pontiac becomes and remains a community of first choice for residents. You see our overall org chart, nothing new. There is one position that is being requested to be added. That is a chief operating officer. With all of the activities that we have going on at the city, the department is stretched pretty thin in oversight. And so the idea is to have an individual whose sole job is to interact with the management staff, leaving the mayor and myself to do more high-level oversight, strategic thinking and planning, and working on those larger categories. So again, the major change that you would see is the addition of that position. Other things to bring your attention to, we have an elimination of payment of the police and fire VEBA. That is huge because we have our VEBAs actually combining. That then took that much money away from our budget. So that was something that we've been working on, and that is part of the reason why we're able to bring down our overall deficit. We also have found savings on our insurance program. So you heard our HR director talk about the changes that were made to the insurance program last year. We were actually able to offer a higher level of benefit and reduce our overall cost. Additionally, the great work that we did in conjunction with our grants department and the state of Michigan, we were able to totally pay off our debt at the Phoenix parking garage, which saved us several hundred thousands of dollars in payments every year. And I'm also happy to say that we worked with our insurance company to learn that if we make our insurance payments at the beginning of the year as opposed to at the end of the year, we save another a large chunk of change. So that is an additional change that we will be making in this fiscal year's budget. The general priorities that we have are housing. We know that we need more housing stock in the city. We need more housing stock at all levels. We need subsidized housing. We need We need income restricted housing. And by that, I mean, I don't care what you want to call it. You can call it subsidized, you can call it low income, you can call it workforce. But the fact of the matter is we need housing that says, hey, in order to live here, we the government, it could be the city, the state, whatever, we the government have invested in this to make sure that we have a housing stock for individuals who cannot necessarily afford what is the market rate. But we also need market rate housing as well. We need more multifamily housing. Our grants department, we need to make sure that we get our opera funds completely obligated. The legal requirement is to have them obligated by December 31st, but our target is actually to have them obligated in September. The state of Michigan has not yet finalized their budget, but their current plan is to give a bump to all communities that have a bump in funding to all communities that have their ARPA dollars completely obligated by September. So we're working towards that. And towards that end, when the grants department comes up, there is another position that is being requested to specifically work with the ARPA dollars. We also, in our grants department, want to make sure that we are staying compliant with all of that grant money that we received last year. Again, over $50 million of grants. We want to make sure that we are compliant with that, and we want to make sure that we remain compliant with the additional grants that we're hoping to get this year. And then facilities. So we have a lot of deferred maintenance on facilities. You heard DPW talk about that. You also heard about the additional position that is currently being filled by Rob England, but also as a contractor, but bringing someone on in-house to really be able to work with that. We have a short-term strategy for DPW, but we also are in the works with a long-term strategy for being able to actually properly house all of the vehicles that we have bought for winter maintenance. And also, if we're able to get into a facility, we will be able to purchase our own salt directly, saving, again, a few $100,000 a year in salt purchase.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
I'm actually going to move over there because that's where my notes are.
Okay, because definitely we got some questions for you. My first question is concerning opera spend down. Where are we at when it comes to our opera spend down?
We have approximately approximately $12 million of ARPA money that has currently truly been spent. We have about another $4 million of ARPA funds that we are anticipating will be spent in the near future.
And also, you guys are working on bringing a presentation to a city council meeting concerning the opera spending and the plans for opera.
Yes, as we discussed, we will have that. I believe it's not this coming week, but the following week.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the mayors? Councilman Nicholson.
I do think a position such as COO needs a bit more explanation. I'm a bit, I wish that the timing of everything could have lined up with the Charter Commission, just because our department level director roles are spelled out there in some ways. Is there, could you give us, or maybe in a future budget hearing, give us a strategy and sort of just a visual of how and where the departments will line up responsibilities?
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to the CO.
Mayor Graham, you have the floor.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit to the COO position. The deputy mayor currently handles some elements of that work, but the deputy mayor, as you can imagine, is pulled in a lot of other directions as well, in terms of special projects, in terms of interacting with residents when they're dissatisfied with the response that they've received from a department, in terms of more high-level issues and specific initiatives. And we really, in my view, need somebody who's focused solely on operations, meaning making sure that we're improving systemically the city's processes, making sure that we're following up with department heads to make sure that all of the priorities that are assigned to them are being completed on time and effectively and at a high quality. And so the deputy mayor has so many other things on his plate in addition to being a taskmaster and in addition to improving systemically the processes, that we really need a position that is solely focused on those high priority items. As I alluded to earlier, I know that there's been a lot of concern on all of our parts about, hey, we've got a lot of things happening in the city, but how do we make sure that those things are happening more quickly and are being completed on time while simultaneously systemically improving all of the processes and procedures here? And I think that's something that really requires a COO.
Thank you. Mayor Graham, any other questions for the council? Yes.
Just a follow-up. So that role exists as the org chart was laid out, not as there are not direct reports assigned to that individual at this point. This person is working in tandem with you and the deputy mayor.
That's how it's outlined in the organizational chart. Now, that is subject to change potentially. I could see how perhaps they should report directly to the deputy mayor and have department heads directly reporting to them perhaps, or alternatively, maybe they should work really in tandem with the deputy mayor. So I would just say that's not necessarily set in stone. I think some of that depends on the specific COO who fills that role and how they, whether it's a she or a he, talk with the deputy mayor about what arrangement makes the most sense in terms of exactly how that organizational chart is structured.
I just request prior to us finishing amendments that we potentially review a job description for that role.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilman. And I want to follow a question concerning that particular role as well, Mayor Grammel, concerning, so with this particular position, would this position have any compliance experience?
Yes, they should, and we can certainly get a job description to you, but the goal really is to make sure that they have the required experience and expertise to really make sure not just that procedures and processes are being improved, not just that things are being completed on time, but that they also really understand the lay of the land in terms of legal requirements, procedural requirements, so that we can make sure that all of those things are being followed on a day-to-day basis.
All right, thank you, sir. Councilman Goodman, you have the floor.
So I'm looking at the budget to ask the question, the position that you're proposing, is that reflected in your proposed budget?
It is.
Just from my understanding, and it can be for any number of reasons, but I do want to ask. So given that you're adding in a position, I do see that the amount that is like your recommended budget has decreased slightly. And so I'm just wondering how that was pulled off with the addition of a new position. between last year's budget and this.
Yeah, in terms of the mayor's office specifically, you're saying?
Correct.
Yeah. I'm going to defer to the deputy mayor, who's a little more
Deputy
familiar
Mayor,
with the
you have the floor,
numbers.
please.
Thank you, Councilman. That's actually one of the items that needs to be corrected in the budget. There was a number of issues specifically in the wage and salary line for individuals that did not get completely added to the budget. The long explanation is that when an individual is paid for out of multiple salary lines, the way they are put on our ADP list, it shows them 20% of their salary here, 40% of their salary, whatever line item it gets assigned to. And this individual, again, it will be in our finance budget, but we have actually asked for additional funding through the philanthropic community. And so where you're looking at the salary wage line reducing, that's actually because it did not get carried over completely to this line as it should have been. But that is actually a correction that we have been working on to bring to council to say we want to bring better transparency. So if you look at the DPW department, for example, and you just look at the DPW salary line in the 101, it looks like a very low budget. But the reality of salaries and wages for DPW is that it is spread out across, I want to say, 7 different areas. And we're actually working on, and this is the way that it has traditionally been done, but we're actually working on changing that reporting to show you the real, true cost. And so that's what happened here.
All right, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other questions you want to follow up, Councilman Goodman?
So do you have currently an estimated cost for what that proposed position is supposed to be?
That proposed position would be in the same category, the same pay band as the attorney, which is a 16, and off the top of my head, I don't have it, but it is somewhere between $92,000 and $140,000. That would be the band.
And then, of course, the addition in terms of insurance and benefits.
Correct.
And so on and so forth, which I can't do the math for that off the top of my head, but thank you.
Thank you for those questions. Any other questions for the mayor's office? All right. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for your report. At this time, the next report is the Finance Department. Actually, we may not have time for this particular department. We probably gonna wait. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor. What you about to say?
I would say, would you like to go backwards to the Recreation Department, or would you like to go forward to public comment?
Yes. I think we need to move to public comment because we're going to lose quorum here in the next several minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, public comment. The first one in public comment is Ms. Darlene Clark.
Hey, Ms. Clark, please turn the mic on to the right at the bottom. To the right. There you go. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Council, Administration, and Mayor. I have a few questions. Mayor, this is for you right here. You say you're trying to move the city forward. Could you explain to the public what forward means to you? We do know we're moving forward, and we know where we've been, but we don't know the correct agenda where you're trying to move us forward. So can you kind of break it down for the residents a little? And this is for the council and for people who's listening out view. I have sit here and I'm listening, and this is a budget meeting. It appears to me, and I'm quite sure some of the public is feeling the same way, this is more of a planning, not giving checks and balances of dollars being spent and dollars that needs to go out. You tend to bring that into your council meeting to pass resolutions for positions to be paid, as you say, maybe $100,000 for a position. Can you kind of backtrack and come in during the budget, or even for your future meetings, to explain the dollars amount needed to be spended, need clarity on needs to project within the administration without planning? Do you kind of understand what I'm saying to you? So if you bring in a new person, that salary, what's in the budget for that person. If you have $22,000 in a budget and you can only spend $10,000, please let the public know that in future use, because this is like a planning from what we're hearing. Also, DPW have spoken on all the programs that has been done for the roads, the Martin Luther King Bridge. Now, the McCarran School and the Martin Luther King Bridge is the starting or ending in 2026, or starting, however you want to put it. But the question is, for the residents, what have you planned within that circle of spending money for the residents on their streets? You know, the streets are looking worse and worse and worse. And you came into this administration with this problem, so we can't put this problem on you. But we do hear you speaking on a continuous basis on certain territories, but not on the residents. Not DPW, not consumers. We're talking about what the council and the city can do for the residents.
Next on the speakers list is Dr. Deirdre Waterman.
Thank you, Ms. Clark.
My comments this evening are related to some questions that I didn't hear answered about the budget allotments that you may want to find the answers of as you move along. One of those is kind of unusual, as this budget, at least the one that was available to the public that we pulled out, was missing the column that said what were the departmental requests, budget requests. And generally that's there because you ask all the department heads what would they like to see their budgets, included in their budgets. And they're always huge, and so the mayor has to bring them all down and to balance the budget. But by not seeing that, you don't really, you have to take the mayor's idea on what are the most important things, the priorities, as opposed to seeing what the department heads may have recommended, and you might have thought that's something that you wanted to keep that had been taken out by the mayor. So I just made that point in terms of how generally those budgets have been looked at in years previously. But in terms of the DPW department you held, one of the questions I have is that as we're talking about, Mayor talks about this $10 million to build a new facility, and I know as we have brought, this has come up before, some of us have asked, what about the Collier Road property? When I left, was here, and it's available. It has all the facilities and space we need, enough space for a salt barn, and it's ours. We don't have to spend money making somebody else rich to buy another property. But every time I've asked that, there's never been an answer to why that's not going to be utilized and considered in terms of building some other space. So that is a question I have and may be present. The other thing I want to bring to forth is that under the Biden infrastructure bill, there is a lot of infrastructure money here that's coming to Michigan. So as the DPW director is talking about how many roads we can get repaired with the money that we have, are they also looking at the infrastructure bill to see if there's some projects that might be granted under that bill? But lastly, as last point is, the ARPA, you talked about the ARPA funds, son, and I'm always following that very peculiarly because I want to make sure we get the best use out of that. That was hard fought to get. But you did, in November of 22, pass the budget for the ARPA funds, and you have $37 million worth of projects. But yet, you took $10 million out the first year and put it in the general fund. So how are you going to balance that and make sure all these projects get done, particularly the ones that bring resources to our homeowners as well as our small businesses, both of which programs are underway, but a lot of confusion with those right now. So those are my questions.
Thank you, Dr. Waterman.
Ms. Patrice Waterman, former council president Patrice Waterman.
Good afternoon. You know, I was sitting here and I was listening to the presentations. I guess my concern is line items. Well, previously sitting, I see that there are not detailed questions that had been asked. And I'm looking through this budget and I'm looking at DPW. And when I see $2 million on a line item, I need to know what that $2 million is for. And so I will be doing a breakdown and asking about how other professional services you have in here. You have monies listed in other professional services. What is those for? What is it for? What is the line item? I've seen where you purchased several vehicles and stuff. How much was that in the budget for these vehicles? How are they being serviced? How are they being paid? How are they being maintained? You have several issues here where you have vacant positions, and then I'm looking, I know we always say that you have to pay, you're trying to pay top dollar, but what I look at is you're over. I don't believe anybody in this city outside of the mayor, the deputy mayor, probably the finance director should be making over $110,000. And when I look at some of these salaries in here, it's outrageous. And I want to know how you're going to sustain this. I hear you sit and say that you're trying to get grants and different things in. The art money has to be spent at a certain time. But once you spend that money for art money, how do you sustain? And so, and then lastly, next time you schedule a budget session, please schedule who you gonna have on deck, because I was told it was just gonna be DPW, the district court, and community development. Then I see the mayor's, you're talking about the mayor's presentation and other presentations. I would have had other notes in here. So I would just like to know when I come to these hearings who I'm going to be listening to. So if I have to come up here, I'm going to ask the questions that need to be asked. Thank you so much and have a good evening.
That does conclude public comment.
Thank you, Councilman Goodman. At this time, upcoming city council special meetings on the budget are scheduled for May the 16th, 2024 at 5 p.m., May 23rd, 2024 at 5 p.m. Department presentations that didn't happen tonight would happen in the following coming days. And definitely some of the public comments would definitely take in consideration and make sure that we have that we better relate what's happening in this particular budget to the community. I want to take a point of privilege and get the deputy mayor or Mayor Gramble opportunity to answer anything that he heard during public comment.
Well, thank you, President Pro Tem. I'll just say that when we speak about moving the city forward, I think we've talked extensively about that in the past, but it means several things. It means improving day-to-day city services for the community. That includes snow plowing, it includes salting, it includes basic maintenance, it includes properly mowing our parks and maintaining our parks, getting litter out of our parks. So that's one area of moving the city forward. The other is actually making major infrastructure improvements to the city. That includes a lot of the road projects that we've seen in the past couple of years. It includes investments in our parks. It includes launching the design for the new youth recreation center so that we can once again, after 12 or more years, actually have a city-owned youth recreation center. And then finally, it means investing in our residents. And by that, I mean the home improvement program that we've launched, the small business assistance program, and we'll be accepting applications for the small business grant and loan program in the second half of June. It involves the investments in workforce development that will be forthcoming. So it's really about trying to make sure that we're attracting more development, building our tax base, providing more housing for the community, fostering more of that private sector economic development while simultaneously improving city services and improving investments in city infrastructure.
Thank you, Mayor Grimal. And again, I'd like to thank the community for coming out, especially the department heads that are with us today and their presentations. We greatly appreciate the work that you've been doing for the city of Pontiac. We look forward to the rest of the departments in coming weeks with their presentations. At this time, I need a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Yeah.
Can I make a request, please?
Yes.
As we're looking through the.
Hold up. I'm gonna remove my motion off the floor first. Also, I want you to be cognizant of time because we're about to lose quorum here shortly.
Well, my question is real quick.
Yes, sir. You have the floor.
As we are getting our agendas each day, it would help as we go through the departments, if they would list the department number, because this is not in order, and so you got to skim through all of it to find what we're talking about, so that I can look at each line item individually, because while y'all was talking, I was trying to find some of those. And so I would ask that if you're going to do it this way, that you would list the department, so at least we can find those in the book and be able to discuss it. And certainly don't, as we looked at this listing, when we look at it, I would have said there was no way we was going to do this in the time frame allocated. So if we're going to do it, let's please make sure we have enough time allocated to be able to do it effectively without having to be rushed to get done. Thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you, Councilman. At this time, I need a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved by Goodman and supported by Nicholson that we adjourn. A roll call, please.
Nicholson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Carrington,
Yes.
Goodman.
Yes.
4 yeas, no nays.
Adjourn at 4:50. Thank you.